They underestimated the chosen one. They thought they could shape him to their will, like a sculptor who believes he dominates the raw stone. They failed to realize that beneath the serene surface of this being lay an unfathomable vastness, like the hidden depths of a calm ocean. Those who challenged him only saw the tip of the iceberg, unaware that his roots extended far beyond what their eyes could reach. Like the tide, which in its apparent tranquility hides currents capable of altering the course of the winds, the chosen one waited patiently. Every underestimation, every miscalculation was a silent opportunity that accumulated, like the invisible force of waves before a storm. His adversaries were blind to the fact that true power does not lie in spectacle, brute force, or imposition. They did not know that the most formidable strength is the one that remains silent until awakened. And so, believing the chosen one was malleable, they tried to maneuver him, to mold him according to their whims. But they were playing with forces that went beyond simple understanding. The true essence of the chosen one was like a submerged mountain, immovable, unbreakable, and invisible to the hurried gaze of those who only see the surface. He was, by nature, a convergence of mysteries. And each attempt to diminish him only fed the inner storm growing inside. Those who challenged him, so sure of their victories, unknowingly strengthened something far beyond their comprehension. Like a river that patiently carves the canyon, the chosen one became increasingly unshakable in the face of external fury, his silence transforming into an irresistible force. He was a living paradox, calm like a lake, yet with the power of a lurking hurricane. Behind the underestimating gazes lay an illusion of control. But the chosen one knew that true control was beyond the visible. It resided in the depths of the soul, where not even the most cunning enemy dared to venture. His adversary's mistake was to think they could contain the ocean in a bottle, without realizing that his true strength was in what they could not see. The true battle of the chosen one was not fought on the external field. It was neither in the hands of the enemy surrounding him nor in the traps set for him. The fiercest fight took place in a territory only he could access, his own inner self. There, in the shadows of the unconscious, where ancient fears and deep doubts reside, he found his true adversaries. They were not the visible faces of those who underestimated him, but the silent voices echoing in his mind, questioning his strength, planting seeds of uncertainty. The chosen one walked through endless deserts, but these deserts were landscapes of his own soul. Each step was heavy not because of external dust, but because of the burden of his own limitations. He confronted ghosts of past failures, memories of defeats and mistakes that had made him doubt himself for so long. But he knew, with wisdom that came from the depths, that his strength would not be found in victories visible to others but in the acceptance and transcendence of these inner demons. Like the sun that burns brightest in the silence of the desert, he found in the solitude of his journey a spark that few would dare to seek. In darkness, he saw that the path to true strength involved facing these shadows head-on. And so, without witnesses and without applause, he fought the most significant battle of his existence, to know himself fully. There, in the silence of introspection, something began to change. It was not a sudden transformation but a gradual awakening, like the slow blooming of a rare flower in the heart of the night. The chosen one realized that the fears that once held him back were not signs of weakness but invitations for transformation. Every doubt, every hesitation was a portal to a new level of strength, a step toward a deeper understanding of himself. While his enemies outside believed they were winning, they had no idea that, with every moment of silence and reflection, the chosen one was fortifying himself. He was no longer just a man, he was becoming something more, a being who understood the power of stillness and the depth of the soul. Like a warrior who meditates before battle, he emerged from this inner journey with an invisible yet unbreakable strength. He no longer needed to prove anything to anyone, he had proven himself to himself. His strength was no longer a matter of physicality but of spirit. And one who conquers himself, who faces his own demons and emerges victorious, carries a strength no external adversary can match. Now he walked with the certainty that, no matter what came from the outside, he had found the inexhaustible source of power within himself. The chosen one understood that true strength does not lie in rigidity but in the ability to adapt. Like bamboo that bends before the storm without ever breaking, he learned the art of flexibility. His adversaries, trapped in the illusion that brute force could overcome any obstacle, failed to realize that resilience does not manifest in rigidity but in pliability in the face of adversity. Every attempt to crush him, every blow struck, did not cause him to break but made him stronger, wiser, and more aware of the dance between resistance and fluidity. Just as bamboo bends but always returns to its upright position, the Chosen One knew when to bend and when to rise. He did not resist pressures with the stubbornness of a rock but absorbed them, processed them, and then transformed his own nature to adapt to what life demanded of him. His enemies, blinded by the idea that brute strength could overcome any obstacle, failed to understand that true power did not lie in blind opposition but in the wisdom to bend without breaking. Like a river that flows around obstacles rather than confronting them directly, the Chosen One flowed with life. He adjusted to circumstances without losing his essence, without compromising his integrity. Flexibility, after all, is not a sign of weakness but of profound wisdom. Like bamboo, deeply rooted in the soil, the Chosen One found his stability not in resistance to the external world but in his connection with his inner essence. Every storm he faced was an opportunity to grow stronger, to root himself even more deeply. Instead of being beaten down by the strong wind, he allowed himself to be carried by it, knowing that when the storm passed he would rise again, stronger and more resilient. The lesson of the bamboo was engraved in his soul. To be flexible was not a concession but a survival strategy. It was the ability to remain standing, even when the forces around him tried to knock him down. His adversaries, rigid in their convictions, would ultimately break under the weight of their own inflexibility. The Chosen One, on the other hand, navigated the currents of life with a lightness that made him unbeatable. He danced with the wind rather than fighting against it, and this dance led him to heights that few could reach. Like bamboo, he had learned that true resilience is not stubborn resistance but the ability to bend without ever losing one's essence. And so, in every moment of pressure he adjusted, adapted, and in the end always rose stronger, more flexible, more invincible. The journey of the Chosen One was never just about himself. Although his strength was born from his inner battles and his resilience shaped him as an unbreakable being, something greater drove him: connection with others. He was a catalyst for transformation, and every step he took reverberated in those around him like the echo of thunder awakening the dormant. The Chosen One did not walk alone, and he knew this deeply. His presence, his overcoming, was not a solitary achievement but a spark that ignited a flame in others' hearts. Each victory he achieved, each obstacle he overcame, served as a beacon for those who followed him. His journey was a silent inspiration, living proof that adversities can be overcome, and that even in the darkest nights, there is a path that leads to the light. He naturally became a symbol of hope, a point of reference amidst the world's chaos. Not because he presented himself as a hero but because his authenticity touched the spirits of those who watched him. He walked humbly, aware that his journey impacted not only his own life but also the lives that intertwined with his. He was like a great tree that, as it grows and expands, offers shade and shelter to those who cross its path. Thus, the Chosen One not only found his purpose but also became the channel through which others could find theirs. His presence was transformative not through words or promises but through the silent example of his walk. The invisible strength he carried with him radiated like a magnetic field, attracting and inspiring everyone who felt his vibration. The collective around him began to awaken to the possibility of also becoming resilient, of also winning their own battles. His strength, then, transcended the individual and spread through the community. Like the roots of a tree that interconnect underground, the lives touched by his journey strengthened in silence, creating an invisible network of support and mutual growth. Each small gesture of overcoming by the Chosen One inspired a current of transformation in others, who in turn passed on the strength received. The journey of a single being became the journey of many. The resilience he discovered in himself was now shared, multiplied, transforming into something greater than himself. The Chosen One did not need to give speeches or draw attention to himself. His life was the living testimony that individual transformation creates a collective impact. And so, like a tree whose deep roots support the entire forest around it, he supported those who sought light and strength through him. He knew that true victory was not in winning alone but in elevating everyone around him. And with this understanding, each step of his journey became a bridge for others to cross their struggles and find their own light. The Chosen One was more than a presence. He was a living legacy, a beacon illuminating the way for all seeking transformation. The Chosen One understood something few dare to accept. Adversities were not enemies but disguised teachers. Each blow life dealt him, each difficulty rising like an insurmountable mountain, carried within it a hidden lesson. They were not obstacles to be destroyed or bypassed but opportunities for learning, for evolution. He knew that true gold is revealed only when it passes through the fire, and thus each challenge was a purification, a chance to refine himself, to become stronger and wiser. Life, with its mysteries and harsh trials, was a demanding but fair master. For the chosen one, external adversaries were merely reflections of internal enemies, fears, doubts, and insecurities that needed to be overcome. And by facing these trials with courage and humility, he began to see beyond the suffering, to perceive the purpose hidden behind each difficulty. Suffering, once seen as punishment, was now understood as a tool for transformation. Every pain, every fall, every open wound brought with it the seed of new strength. His enemies, unknowingly, were offering him the most valuable gifts, self-knowledge and wisdom. Through the battles he fought, the chosen one learned the art of patience, the importance of silence, and the strength of persistence. Each temporary defeat molded him, like a craftsman chiseling a raw stone to reveal the hidden gem within. Thus, difficulties were no longer feared but welcomed with respect, for he knew that with each trial faced, something new and precious would emerge from within. Like a sculptor who sees the masterpiece hidden within the marble, the chosen one saw his true self being revealed through life's blows. Steel is strengthened by the heat of the forge, and so he too became more resilient, sharper, purer with each battle. He did not flee from adversity but faced it head-on, aware that it was the instrument of his ascent. And as he passed through these trials, something changed in his perception. He began to see his adversaries not as enemies but as teachers. They were fundamental pieces of a larger puzzle, each contributing to his journey of growth. Attacks were no longer seen as attempts at destruction but as necessary challenges for him to rise to higher levels of understanding and power. He did not hate them but thanked them silently, for he understood that without them, his evolution would not have been possible. Adversity then ceased to be a threatening shadow and became an ally, a mirror reflecting where he still needed to grow, where his weaknesses still resided, and where his strength had yet to be fully revealed. Thus, the chosen one walked with the certainty that each difficulty was a disguised blessing, an invitation to become stronger, wiser, more complete. Instead of seeking to destroy or avoid challenges, he accepted them with reverence. He knew that at the end of each storm, a new part of himself would be revealed, more resilient and purer. Thus, the chosen one walked not in fear of trials but with gratitude for them, aware that with each step, each test, he came closer to his true essence. The chosen one did not walk alone. Although his journey seemed solitary to others, an invisible force guided him, an ancestral legacy accompanying him every step of the way. In moments of profound silence, he felt the presence of those who came before him, spirits who shaped the path long before his arrival. This ancient wisdom, passed down through generations, flowed through him like an underground river, nourishing his soul, illuminating his thoughts. He was the heir of battles fought long ago, of accumulated sacrifices and lessons echoing in the silence of his mind. The ancestors, though invisible, were always present. Their voices, gentle as the wind, whispered advice in moments of doubt, and their gestures echoed in the chosen one's actions without needing words. Every movement, every decision was permeated by a force that came not only from him but from a lineage that sustained him, like deep roots keeping the tree standing. He knew his journey was a continuation of something much greater, something that transcended time and space. The challenges he faced were, in a way, the same ones his ancestors had faced, and like them he was destined to overcome them, carrying the lessons they had learned. Ancestral wisdom was not written in books nor contained in formal words. It flowed silently, like an invisible current guiding his feet in the darkness, leading him down paths he didn't fully understand. This invisible inheritance was his greatest strength. He could feel, in moments of crisis, that a legion was by his side, cheering for his victory, helping him carry a burden that seemed too heavy for one person. No, the chosen one was not alone. His victories were not his alone, and his struggles were shared by those who, in some way, were connected to him either by blood or spirit. He realized that the burden of the choice entrusted to him was, in fact, a privilege. To carry the flame of his ancestors' wisdom was an act of honor, and he knew his strength came from these deep roots. Like a tree that grows towards the sky only because its roots are firmly anchored in the soil, the chosen one rose thanks to what was hidden beneath the surface, this legacy that nurtured him from within. It was the accumulated wisdom of countless battles that guided him, the understanding that time is cyclical and that each new generation has the responsibility to continue the work of those before. The journey of the chosen one was unique, yes, but at the same time, it was part of a continuous flow of struggle and overcoming, where he now occupied his place. He did not carry only his own hopes and dreams but also the aspirations of those who came before him, who had fought so that he could be there, at that moment, facing his own challenges. And with this in mind, the chosen one understood that failure was not an option. He was the continuation of an unbreakable line, and for this reason he felt strengthened by a force that transcended individuality, something much greater than himself. This invisible wisdom, this ancestral legacy, made him more than just a warrior or survivor. He was the bearer of an eternal flame, a flame that could not be extinguished by any wind, however strong. And in recognizing this, he connected to the past and the future simultaneously, knowing that his journey would pave the way for those who came after him, just as his ancestors had done for him. The chosen one discovered that his true strength did not lie in the appearance of invulnerability but in acknowledging his own vulnerability. He realized that the masks the world demands, these layers of perfection and invincibility that many carry, were only barriers hiding the true power within the heart of authenticity. The more he allowed himself to be authentic, the deeper and truer his power became. The armor many wear to hide their flaws and weaknesses was nothing but a burden, an impediment to growth. The chosen one accepted that his imperfections, his mistakes, and his doubts were essential parts of his journey. They were not signs of weakness but rather the ingredients that shaped his essence, that gave substance to his strength. Just as a clay pot gains beauty through its cracks, he understood that the beauty of his story lay precisely in the scars he carried. He was made of all his failures and triumphs, and this mixture was what made him human, authentic, real. In the world he lived in, many protected themselves with masks, hiding their pain, their anguish, afraid of being judged or seen as fragile. But the chosen one knew that true courage was in showing oneself as one is, without pretenses, without illusions of perfection. He found strength in stripping off masks, in accepting his own vulnerability and sharing it with the world. And in doing so he touched the hearts of those around him, for the power of authenticity is contagious. It is transformative. His openness was an act of courage, a challenge to the false notion that strength means being impenetrable. On the contrary, he understood that being strong is being transparent. It is allowing the world to see his cracks and, through them, glimpse the light that shines within his soul. Each failure he admitted, each mistake he accepted, was an opportunity to grow, to learn, to become more complete. And this openness brought with it a new kind of strength, one that did not depend on others' opinions but solely on his self-acceptance. He was like a warrior who did not hide his battle scars but wore them as symbols of his journey. Every mark on his body and soul was a reminder of the fights he had faced and won, and he did not hide them out of shame but displayed them with pride, knowing they testified to his resilience. And in opening up to the world, he freed not only himself but also others. Those who watched him, who followed him, saw in his vulnerability the permission to also be authentic, to let go of masks and embrace their truths. The strength of the chosen one was, therefore, not in being invincible but in being human. He showed the world that true invulnerability was not the absence of flaws but the courage to expose them without fear. His authenticity was an invisible armor, one that protected him from judgment, for he no longer depended on external approval. He had freed himself from the burden of appearing perfect and in doing so found a deep, unshakable peace. And so, the chosen one walked with quiet confidence. His vulnerability was not a weakness but the source of his greatest strength. He knew that those who allow themselves to be seen for who they truly are, without the armor hiding their pain, are the ones who truly transform the world. His authenticity was his greatest weapon, and with it he inspired everyone around him to also free themselves from the prisons of appearance, to embrace their cracks and in them find the true light they carried within. Throughout his journey, the chosen one began to realize that each step he took, each battle he faced, was part of a greater purpose. What once seemed hazy and uncertain, like a landscape shrouded in mist, now began to reveal itself with clarity before his eyes. Everything he had lived, from hardships to quiet victories, was part of an intricate tapestry weaving his destiny. Every pain, every obstacle overcome, was an indispensable piece of a puzzle that gradually revealed the grandeur of his purpose. He understood that nothing he faced was in vain. The scars on his soul were marks of learning, and the losses and difficulties had been keys that opened doors to a deeper understanding of his mission. The Chosen One no longer saw his sufferings as mere punishments but as essential parts of his growth, like flames that molded him, burning away the unnecessary to reveal his purest essence. Just as a seed must be buried in the darkness of the earth before transforming into a tree, the Chosen One understood that moments of darkness and uncertainty were, in fact, necessary preparation for his ascension. He was being silently nourished, strengthened in invisible ways until the moment when his true purpose would emerge into the light. And now, as he advanced on his journey, he began to clearly see the path he was destined to follow. What once seemed like chaos or chance now showed its true form, a meticulously orchestrated plan of destiny, where every detail, no matter how small, contributed to the great work the Chosen One was destined to accomplish. He began to see the invisible connections between the events of his life, realizing that nothing was random and that everything had prepared him for this moment of clarity. The Chosen One realized that his mission was not merely personal. There was something greater, something that transcended his own existence. He was part of a much broader flow, a current of transformation that would impact everyone around him. His purpose was not just about his own overcoming but about the impact this journey would have on the world. He was not just rising, he was opening a path for others to also find their strength, their destiny, their light. And so, as the vision of his final purpose revealed itself, the Chosen One understood that each battle, each moment of pain, had been necessary. Without them, he would not have acquired the wisdom or the strength to fulfill what destiny had in store for him. Everything was part of a preparation cycle, where the soul was refined to become capable of carrying the responsibility of a greater mission. With this new clarity, the Chosen One felt a profound peace, an unshakable certainty. The path before him, though still full of challenges, was now illuminated by the understanding that he was exactly where he was meant to be, doing exactly what he was meant to do. Destiny had led him here, and now he knew that nothing could divert his course. Each adversity, each mistake, each doubt had been part of the process of revealing his purpose. Now, with a full heart and a clear mind, the Chosen One was ready. He knew that his journey was only beginning to blossom and that his destiny was calling him to fulfill something greater than he could imagine. The purpose that had once been hidden in shadows now shone like a beacon, guiding his steps with an invisible yet powerful force leading him to the final victory. Everything the Chosen One had faced so far had been mere preparation. Every battle fought, every fall and rise, every painful trial had paved the way for this moment, the impending ascension. Now he was no longer the same person who started this journey. He had transformed, transcended the limitations surrounding him, and was about to reap the fruits of his resilience, his patience, his unwavering faith in himself. The adversaries who had tried so hard to destroy him failed to understand the depth of his strength. They thought they could crush him with constant attacks, but with every attempt, every blow, the Chosen One absorbed the lessons like a blacksmith perfecting metal in the forge. Every scar he bore was a symbol of growth, a mark attesting to his ability to turn pain into power, failure into wisdom. And now, after all the challenges, he was ready to emerge from his cocoon, no longer as one others underestimated but as someone transformed, reborn. The imminent ascension was not simply an external victory over his enemies but an elevation of his own soul. He had reached a level of clarity and strength that few attain, an inner peace that could not be shaken, a certainty of purpose that guided his every step. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the Chosen One emerged brighter, stronger, more powerful than ever. He was the embodiment of resilience, the living proof that those who do not give up, who adapt and grow with every difficulty, always find victory in the end. The adversaries, who once loomed like insurmountable mountains, now seemed small in his new form. He no longer saw his battles as challenges to be won by force but as opportunities that had molded him, that had prepared him for this very moment of glory. The ascension of the Chosen One was not a grand event in the world's eyes but a silent and profound transformation that resonated within him, radiating power and serenity. He no longer needed to fight to prove his worth or to defeat those who underestimated him. His victory was greater than that. It was a victory of soul, of spirit, of self-realization. He was beyond the need for recognition or external affirmation. His strength now came from an internal source, fueled by all he had learned and achieved throughout his journey. He had won the hardest battle of all, the battle with himself. This ascension marked the point at which the Chosen One understood that his destiny was much greater than the small fights of daily life. He was destined for something grand, something that transcended common victories. He was a being in full growth, ready to take his place on the vast stage of the universe. The clarity of his purpose was absolute, and with it, he walked with serene confidence, knowing that the worst was behind him and that he now sailed towards his fulfillment. There was no more fear, no more doubt. The Chosen One was in a place of power where nothing could shake him. The winds of adversity might blow, but he was like an immovable rock, firmly rooted in his own truth. His ascension was not about triumphing over others but about rising above his own limitations, reaching a level of wisdom and serenity that placed him above the small battles of life. Now, at the peak of his journey, the Chosen One was ready for what came next. He had become a beacon of strength and resilience, someone who, through his struggles and victories, showed others that true ascension is internal. And looking back, he no longer saw pain or defeat but the necessary path that had brought him here. He had become invincible, not because he could not be hurt but because he learned that every wound strengthened him. With his ascension, the cycle was complete, and the Chosen One now walked in the fullness of his power, ready for the final victory, which was not the defeat of his enemies but the blossoming of his own essence. Now that the journey has been revealed, that the Chosen One's ascension is complete, and the lessons have been conveyed, it is time to reflect on what this means for all of us. Just as the Chosen One faced his adversities and found his inner strength, we all carry within us the potential to turn our struggles into victory. Each of us has our own journey, full of challenges but also filled with opportunities for growth and overcoming. The story of the Chosen One is an invitation for you too to find your strength, your resilience, and above all, your authenticity. You do not need to be perfect or invulnerable to be strong. In fact, it is in accepting our vulnerabilities, our imperfections, that we find true power. Just like him, each of us carries a purpose, a greater mission, and it is through adversity that this purpose is revealed. If this message has touched you, if the Chosen One's journey has inspired you to reflect on your path, then join us. Be part of this community of transformation where each of us, in our own time, finds the path to the light. Like this video if you feel inspired, and subscribe to the channel to continue following stories of strength, resilience, and overcoming. Share your experiences in the comments, tell us about the challenges you have overcome, and know that here you will never be alone. Together we are stronger, and together we can inspire each other to reach our own ascension. Welcome to the community of the Chosen Ones. Your journey is also just beginning.